I'm sure till now you have heard about Trump Putin meeting in Alaska. The political world is about to witness a spectacle that feels part Cold War history lesson, part reality TV episodes. The Trump Putin meeting in Alaska. Well, on paper, it is an international summit aimed at finding a pathway to peace in Ukraine. In reality, it is a high stake political theater where the line between diplomacy and deal making blur into something, well, unequivocally 21st century. So why Alaska? Well, it is kind of location choice that make political analysts raise an eyebrow and history buffs smirk. Back in 1867, the US purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, roughly 2 cents an acre, a deal that at time was mocked as a Seward's folly. Now, over 150 years later, the IC territory is about to play host to a meeting between leader of two nations, with Russia's president returning to a land his empire once owned. And there is more practical reason. The International Criminal Court ICC. The US is not a member, so Alaska is legally safe ground for Putin, who have an active ICC warrant over the war in Ukraine. In other words, Alaska offers breathtaking glacier, rich history, and conveniently no risk of handcuffs. Well, this isn't a spontaneous photo op. The groundwork was laid back in February 2025 when Trump and Putin had what was described as a very productive phone call, diplomatic shorthand for we didn't yell, we see an opportunity. Then behind the scene negotiation has been quietly shaping the agenda with both sides looking for way to present the meeting as a win. For Trump, it is about proving he can do what past US president couldn't, stop the Ukraine war. For Putin, it is about breaking out of international isolation that has been building since 2022, regaining legitimacy and securing key concessions. Well, what is the agenda? Official or unofficial? Well, the official headline is that two leaders will discuss ending the Ukraine conflict, but a quick glance at the detail revealed the complexity and controversy. Well, Putin's shopping list include recognition of Russian control over Crimea and the Donbass, NATO membership for Ukraine taken permanently off the table, and removal of Western sanctions. What Trump is gaining from this? Something balanced, which in Trump language might mean offering some territorial concession in exchange for a ceasefire, possibly framed as a land swap. The idea sounds straightforward until you remember that in geopolitics, swaps often lead to decades of frozen conflicts. But what is the elephant in the room? It is Ukraine absence. Perhaps the most glaring issue is that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky isn't invited to this initial summit. Negotiating the future of Ukraine without Ukraine in the room is a bit like planning a wedding without the bride and groom. You might still get a ceremony, but don't be surprised if the vows don't stick. This exclusion has sparked a criticism from European allies who worry it sends the message that aggression is rewarded and that the West is willing to negotiate over the heads of a smaller nation if it suits bigger power interest. Well, what is the optics for both sides? I mean, Russia and US. For Putin, the mere fact of the meeting is victory. After years of sanctions, travel restrictions, and global condemnation, sitting down with the US President on American soil signal a return to international stage. For Trump, it is a chance to dominate headlines, cast himself as a peacemaker, which he often say, and frame his presidency as a capable of delivering the deal of century. And of course, there is a personal dynamic. Both leaders are skilled at political theater. Trump likes to project confidence, like he's saying that I will know within 2 minutes if we can make a deal. And Putin like to project unflappable strength. The result is like to be performance as much as a negotiation. What can we expect a possible outcome from this? I mean, this peace to PR spin. Well, best case scenario will be a temporary ceasefire agreement with a framework for future talk that eventually include Ukraine. This could is the fighting, but whether it hold would depend on trust, a rare commodity here. Second possible outcome will be symbolic win for both in the sense Putin and Trump. So no concrete deal, but both leaders spin the message as a success. Trump can say he is making a progress. Putin can say the West is finally listening. What will be the third possible outcome? Well, it will be a geopolitical backfire. If the talks are seen as giving too much to the Russia without Ukraine consent, it could fracture US-European unity and embolden other authoritarian leader. Well, you can see what is the wider geopolitical stake. Well, this summit isn't just about Ukraine. The US and Russia have deep interest in Arctic geopolitics. From natural resources to military positioning, Alaska sitting right across from Russian territory is a reminder that their borders are only about 55 miles apart at their closest point. Any deal struck here could have implications far beyond Eastern Europe, potentially affecting NATO strategy, global energy market, and even climate policy in the Arctic. Well, when you strip away the diplomatic language, the meeting is riddled with ironies. The US and Russia meeting in a territory they once traded like a chess piece, talking about Ukraine's future without Ukraine. Leader framing the event as a peace initiative when both have a domestic political capital riding on confrontation. So it is hard not to see it as a geopolitical performance, once where the audience is global community, the script is still being written, and the ending is anyone guess. Well, what will be my final thought on this? Whether this become a turning point in Ukraine war or just another round of political posturing, one thing is certain: the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska will be remembered as much for its symbolism and spectacle as for its substance. Its diplomacy in age of 24-hour news cycle, part negotiation table, part theater stage. Thank you very much.